But despite Hollywood's near complete refusal to acknowledge it, ancient Rome was the original melting pot. See, back then, color and prejudice weren't linked, unlike racism and stupidity today. Now, don't get me wrong, I also think racism is stupid. With that being said, what they are trying to do here is overwriting and changing history in a way that helps them push their message. Now, I don't care if your message is good or bad, you should not change history to support it. And when they say that color and prejudice weren't linked, I don't believe this. Color and prejudice has probably been linked since prehistorical times. And I think if we look at the very origins of what prejudice is, it probably all boils down to, this is my tribe, we live here, we all kind of look the same. Oh, there is someone who doesn't look like us, he could be an invader because we were invaded maybe 20 years earlier by people who didn't look like us and didn't speak like us, so we don't trust them. And of course, this didn't necessarily just mean skin tone, which is what we seem to be all obsessed with in our day and age. Different language, different looks. I think that could have been a source of prejudice too at the very beginning of human civilization. Most of us understand that even if someone looks like me, it doesn't mean that he's a good person, and just because someone doesn't look like me because they're from freaking Asia, it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. I think we get that. But trying to push this idea through painting the Romans of people who didn't even see the difference of skin color is stupid. It's not necessarily racially connected in the same way as, for example, 1940s Germany's idea of racial discrimination. Of course, they are different in the sense that the Romans pretty much thought everyone was beneath them the same way. So whether you were from Central Africa, whether you were from Britannia, whether you were a Gaul, you would still be beneath the Romans from their point of view. So basically they hated everyone equally. It was like, if you're not Greek or Roman, you're horrible. Of course there would have been people that were more open-minded. With that being said, let's continue because the situation is gonna get it's gonna get so much worse. Rome even had at least two African emperors, Severus and Macrinus, and this is where I draw the line. Rome was unique in the ancient world for its inclusive citizenship. You see, you can tell this is trying to push a specific modern political agenda. The ancient Romans were so inclusive, you see, they've got African emperors. Well, let's have a look at these two emperors. In fact, let's have a look at Roman emperors in general. Julius Caesar, not an emperor, but definitely Italian origin. Then you've got Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus Augustus, the very first emperor. Guess where he was born? Yes, you guessed it. Rome. Second Emperor Tiberius, from Italy. Caligula, from Antium, Italy. What about Claudius? Claudius was born in Lugdunum, Gaul, so haha. See, they were inclusive. The way they are putting it, it's like, you see, he was born in Gaul, so he was a full-on Gaul barbarian, had nothing to do with Rome, and he became emperor. His father, Nero Claudius Drusus, and his mother were both from Italy. It just so happened that his father, who was a military commander, was stationed in Gaul when he was born. So it's not like he was a Gaul. He was still from an Italian powerful patrician family. To help you visualize this, let's compare it to the modern day United States of America. So let's say that you want to become president of the United States. Can you be from anywhere on earth? No. You have to be born within the 50 states. Now, do you have to be born specifically in Washington, D.C.? No, you could be born in Texas, you could be born in Utah, you could be born in New York. It doesn't really matter. A similar situation when it comes to the Roman Empire. Initially, the ruling elite, the ruling class were from modern-day Italy, but as time goes on, and it's just like you add more states to the United States, as long as you're born within one of the provinces, you can still become emperor. Just like in America, you can become president. Of course, I'm not saying that it's a one-to-one example. I mean, I will get American citizenship since I'm married to an American, but I can never run for the office of President of the United States, even with citizenship, because I wasn't born here. So not one-to-one, but understand my example. It's not like you can be from anywhere in Africa and just become emperor. Those emperors who were born in Africa, like they're mentioning, well, let's have a look at them, shall we? Lucius Septimus Severus, who was born in Leptis Magna, which would be modern-day Libya. First of all, he came from a powerful and distinguished equestrian family. His parents were of Punic origins, possibly Phoenicians. Now, even though provincial emperors were starting to become a thing, it was still kind of unusual, and I love how they try to say, see how inclusive they were, without mentioning the following. The Roman Senate back in Italy absolutely loathed the guy. He was in fact unpopular with the senatorial class from the very beginning, and this situation became so bad that he even had to have a few senators executed for corruption. Imagine what that did. But yeah, they were so inclusive, they freaking loved him. But the one that really gets me is Macrinus. Marcus Aurelius Macrinus was emperor from 217 to 218. 1 year. And then they murdered him. But hey, African emperor, inclusivity. And get this, they capture him during the Battle of Antioch, they have him executed, he tries to save his son, they get his son, they execute his son as well. Then, the Senate publicly declared him and his son enemies of Rome, had their names struck from all records, their images destroyed, all the coins that represented them destroyed, their busts and statues mutilated through what is called damnatio memoriae, damned memory. Did they even attempt to read the story of these emperors before pushing them as, look, this beacon of inclusivity? Now, of course, I'm not saying that just the fact that they were provincial emperors was the reason why the Roman Senate hated them. Of course, there are a lot of political, geopolitical, military, economic reasons behind it, but they really chose the wrong two emperors to say that. Let's get back to the list of emperors, shall we? Emperor Nero, Italy. Emperor Galba, Italy. Emperor Otto, from Italy. What about Vitellius? Come on, Emperor Vitellius? Rome, Italy. Titus, Rome. Domitian, Rome. Nerva, Narni, Italy. Antoninus Pius, Marcus Aurelius, Lucius Verus, Commodus, Pertinax, Didius Iulianus, Geta, Elagabalus. Okay, I think I've painted the picture here. Yes, you will have like Trajan or Hadrian. They were not specifically born in Italy, but they were still born within the Roman Empire. And even though they were provincial emperors, in the majority of cases, not all cases, but in the majority of cases, the emperors who weren't born in modern-day Italy were still strongly tied and connected, or straight-on descendant of Italian patrician aristocratic gentes, or families. Now, as we move into the dominant, the late Roman Empire, yeah, the situation will change, but that's not the Roman Empire that they are talking about. What I'm trying to draw with this is that what they are trying to push is this idea that, oh, the Colosseum, you need to have people of all different ethnicities. I don't know, if you've got 10,000 people, let's have 2,000 black, 2,000 white, 2,000 Asians, 2,000 Middle Eastern. That's not how it was. Rome was unique in the ancient world for its inclusive citizenship, and though, compared to other cultures of the time, yes, the Roman Empire would grant citizenship in a way that other countries wouldn't even dream of doing. So yes, they were a lot more welcoming when it comes to, even though you're a filthy barbarian, you can gain Roman citizenship, and if you do, then yes, we're both Romans, because we are both citizens of the great Roman Empire, which has subjugated by force your inferior culture. This is the reality of how the Romans were. So yes, they granted you to keep your culture, they granted you to pray to whatever god you wanted as long as you paid your taxes. I wouldn't call that inclusive though. Rome enrolled northwestern Africans, Moors, Gauls, Celts, Jews, pretty much anyone who could swing a sword or throw a spear, which is how an Ethiopian soldier could find himself fighting in Britain. That is true, but not for inclusive reasons. Please keep in mind that only if you were a citizen could you join the actual main legionary force. If you were not a Roman citizen, you would be an auxiliary. Auxiliary troops, I'd like to underline that they were used sometimes as cannon fodder, or should I say bow fodder. And they were paid less than citizens because they were considered inferior. They needed them, they used them, but they had no problems using them as just bodies, just put in there while we keep our real citizen troops into the reserve, the ones that we really value, and you just do your thing. If you die, we don't care. I wouldn't call that inclusive. There are no exact numbers of ancient Roman diversity, but given Rome's constant contact with Africa and the Near East, the Colosseum we asked you to imagine earlier should look more like Ellis Island and less like Dave Matthews Band concept. As you can see, they want you to imagine it in a modern, inclusive way. And they will continue, as you will notice, to say that Rome was multicultural, Rome was multicultural. Everybody's saying this lately. Rome was multicultural, but I don't think people fully understand or appreciate what it means when we say that Rome was multicultural. The Roman Empire was multicultural not in the sense that every culture was equal, everyone was the same, all cultures were considered to be important and all the same level as the Romans. Absolutely not. The Roman Empire was multicultural in the sense that the Romans absorbed through force and military action loads of different cultures because they expanded so much that many cultures fell under Roman control. Yes, they allowed people to keep their culture, but they did not consider every culture the same. In fact, every culture except the Greek and the Roman were deemed inferior. Not exactly the type of multiculturalism that I think people have in mind when they say that word.